I'm going to go ahead. Actually, Heather's going to go ahead and get recorded. I love it. All right, so I'm tremendously excited, everybody. I cannot thank you enough for joining us for our annual special hiring panel. We have a real treat for you all today. We have managed to culminate a just cast of rock stars that are all industry leaders when it comes to hiring military and creating that winning culture that helps really embrace and empower our military community. And that's military as in veterans, spouses, and their families. There's a very great culture to be talked about. So it is now my esteemed honor. Wait, before I do that, I want to make sure I give shout out to the folks that make this all possible: Modern Lending, Pechanga, Polito Cleaning and Restoration, Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District, Temecula Valley Hospital, as well as Anderson Chevrolet. Let's get a Zoom clap for those folks. Thank you. So, all right. As I was saying, and that's how excited I am. It is my esteemed honor to introduce our first speaker today, LinkedIn top voice and just an all-around great guy, Jay Garcia from Jay Garcia Group. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, everyone. Again, Jay Garcia here. I'm very passionate about serving our military community. Why is that? After putting their bodies, right, their families in harm's way, I think the best thing that we can do is create programs, provide resources to help them connect with meaningful employment opportunities. And that's exactly what we did at my previous employer, Fortinet, one of the top leading cybersecurity organizations. We see that there's strong synergies between military service and the cybersecurity space. So what we did in collaboration with talent acquisition, with marketing, we created a veterans program where we will upskill, we would find resources, we would provide mentorship coaching, and at the same time, employment opportunities for those individuals. So I say all this because in order to fix the skills gap, in order to decrease the veteran unemployment rate, in order to decrease the underemployment rate, I think that it's going to take collaboration, concerted effort, and it's going to take innovation. And I want to thank Mike. I want to thank everybody here, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions and help any of you any way that we can. Thanks, Mike. I'll pass it on to our next speaker.
That was quick. So this is I want to encourage you all to be dynamic, especially from our audience. We've curated these experts to answer those hard questions. So be thinking about those as we jump into here. So next up, I'd like to introduce Tommy Jones from Verizon.
Hello, everybody, and thank you all for allowing me to speak on here. If any of you are veterans, first and foremost, thank you for your service. And if you're a military spouse, again, thank you all. I know how difficult it is. So I'll tell you a little bit about my journey and how I came here, to Verizon. So I served 20 years in the Army, in the Signal Corps, and in the enlisted side. And when I was getting out of the military, I had to make a decision on whether or not I want to accept Sergeant Major or choose my family for the first time in 20 years. And my wife said, I can help you with that decision. It's going to be really easy. You're going to choose your family. So after, combat deployment after combat deployment, I made the decision to, take an assignment teaching ROTC at Princeton University, which got me back to New Jersey, and start my transition out of the military. While on that assignment in my last year, I followed all the rules of transitioning out of the military. I got my resume right. I had every officer I can imagine look at it, talk to every civilian I could meet to look at my resume. Everybody's like, oh, it's perfect. It's great. Bought my first suit, and started to go to career fairs. And it was like meeting employers, and they're like, oh, your resume is great. You're exactly what we're looking for. Applied to about 200 jobs, and it was radio silence. I didn't really hear anything from anybody. So I felt like, I was at the pinnacle of my career, an elite, service member, doing great things, doing everything that I wanted to do. And I really got knocked down hard. So, like I said, I applied to 200 jobs, didn't hear anything. And I figured, I had my bachelor's degree, I had an internet networking engineer certification. But again, I wasn't getting any phone calls. So I was about 6 months out from retirement, freaking out a little bit, getting nervous. And at this point, I would have taken any job that was given to me. But I ran into a Vietnam veteran at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and I thanked him for his service. And he's like, "Oh, you're a reservist?" I says, "No, I'm active duty, teaching here at ROTC at Princeton." We started to have a conversation. And he said, "What are you going to do when you get out?" And I was like, "Well, I thought I was going to work for Verizon, but that didn't pan out." So I had applied to 55 of those 200 jobs were with Verizon, and basically jobs that I knew that I could do easily. And I got 0 phone calls, rejections like crazy. It's kind of like my single life before I came in, got out and found my wife. But so anyway, so I fast forward, I sit down with him and he says to me, my daughter might be able to help you out. She's the vice president of talent acquisition at Verizon. So I kind of stepped in crap, right? I kind of got lucky to have that opportunity. So I took full advantage of it. That was on a Friday. He took my information down, wrote my name down on a napkin. Saturday, his daughter emailed me. Monday, she brought me in. I got to wear that suit for the first time. And I got the opportunity to meet with a bunch of HR directors and vice presidents. And I was just my authentic self, who I was, what I did in the military, talked about all my experience, and they kind of just brought me around and introduced me. And I knew where I was. I knew that wherever I got the opportunity that I'd be successful. So they made a decision. We're not going to let you leave HR. They're like, we're going to keep you here, and we're going to take you through like our own veteran leadership development program and rotate you through a couple different areas of HR, benefits, talent acquisition, just so you can kind of get a vantage point of HR, but also you'll have a good understanding of the business, and then you can help us determine, what direction we want to go. And after 3 weeks, I basically changed that whole theory. They wanted to keep me in talent acquisition, and it really is that I'm one of the luckiest guys, and I think all of us in this space are extremely lucky to be able to give back to the community that you came from. And I was able to do that immediately at Verizon. So I got there, I was sitting on a floor with hundreds of recruiters, listening to them talk about veterans and, passing on Navy, oh, this is a Navy commander. He works on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's applying to a project management position. He's not qualified for that. And I was like, huh? So I'd walk over there and have a conversation with them, explain why and what he did and how stressful that was. And that really started the snowball effect at Verizon. So they had marketed to the military community, like most companies do. But if you peeled back the onion, and they really did care about it, they just didn't know how to hire veterans. They really didn't know how to hire veterans. And I was that guy that was just translating that skill. So we turned it upside down. I went through and I looked at it and I said, okay, how do we make this better? Within 90 days, we hired about 600 veterans, and then it kind of went upstream, and I was able to build a dedicated military recruitment team. I've led recruiting teams at Verizon. I've always had military. I've been here for 9 years. Now I lead the diversity recruiting initiatives. I'm also the head of our Valor Employee Resource Group. So I have all touch points around the entire military space in Verizon, whether it's through marketing, talent acquisition, or through professional development and engaging our employees and keeping them motivated to give back to their military community. So again, I know that was kind of long-winded, but I want to kind of paint that picture on why I was here and what I do and how it got to where I'm at. But excited to be here and help showcase anything we can do to make you all a more military-friendly employer.
Thank you, Tommy. And unfortunately, you're not alone in that 200 applications and not a callback. Frankly, that's something I hear from the community frequently. So I salute not only taking the initiative, but then also becoming someone that is that champion in the community to help other employers understand where those opportunities are. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick introduction for the EWS team. So we're going to start with Nick Curry. Nick Curry, what's going on?
You're talking to me, right?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm Nick Curry. Hey, just want to make sure I heard you correctly. So hi, I'm Nick Curry. I lead AWS's military recruiting initiative. So I work for Amazon Web Services. I'm the technical side, the cloud side of Amazon. A little bit about me. I'm a 20-year retired Navy enlisted submarine sailor. It's my submarine over here on over my shoulder right here. I'm an enlisted guy, so I am really good at solving problems. And I think that's the reason why I'm in the position I am today at Amazon. My background's really customer service. When I got out of the Navy, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was recently divorced, living with my parents, feeling super awesome about myself, and thankfully got a job as an entry-level call center employee at the good old financial services company USAA in Phoenix, Arizona. I didn't know anything about job transition. I just knew that I wanted to work somewhere where I had familiarity with, and every time I called USAA, I seemed to have a good experience, so I figured I'd work for them. Went to an interview, got the job, didn't know what I was going to do. Worked there for 8 years. It was one of the best jobs I ever had. Really learned all about customer service and how important that is to everything that you do in business. Thankfully, got to take those customer service skills to Expedia in the Pacific Northwest. And then after a few years, AWS called me and asked me to come help them with some of their customer service needs. Throughout my career as a civilian, I always gave back to the military community. So I always wanted to help people transition in a different way than I did. I like to joke that in 2007, I got a DD-214 and a swift kick in the pants. There were none of the opportunities available today to transitioning service members and spouses when I got out. Sometimes I think that's actually a good thing because there are so many opportunities. I think it's overwhelming for service members, and it's really hard to get through the noise to find the companies that really truly care, like Fortinet, Verizon, and AWS and Amazon. So I think it's actually a little bit more challenging. But regardless, I wanted to be able to give back and see if it was fun to do what I did for free, if I got paid, if I still had the same excitement to do it. And I can say that I'm lucky that I found a job that provides me autonomy, mastery, and purpose. 3 things that are very important, and the foundation of Daniel Pink's Drive book. If you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. But I have those 3 things in this job, and I'm super fortunate to be able to give back to the military community, build out programs that help people become more employable through upskilling, reskilling, and any sort of internship fellowships or apprenticeships at AWS. Additionally, because you're really good at solving problems when you work in the military, places like Amazon, and it sounds like Verizon too, like to give you more complex problems to solve, especially when you solve them with talent acquisition. So I also now lead our emerging talent pipelines for AWS, which includes diversity programs and initiatives to help underrepresented communities from all walks of life get access and opportunity to in-demand cloud computing roles where they otherwise wouldn't through that programs that I mentioned before. So appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. Thanks for having me on the panel, and looking forward to the Q&A.
Love it. Thank you, Nick. You touched on something really important, I think, and this is something I hear from the community frequently, is that there is, in fact, sometimes it feels like too many places to go. And that really kind of diminishes the trust factor of I don't know where to turn. So that's why it's critical to have boots on the ground in the community to be able to really be the compass and point folks in the right direction. So I thank you for all you do on that sense. And then finally, I want to give the spotlight to Beth from AWS. Beth Conlin, good morning to you. Same thing, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll jump into the robust Q&A, which I see is already starting in the chat.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. My name is Beth Conlin. I am currently an active duty Army spouse. We are stationed just outside of the Pentagon. I do have a very hungry old dog right here. So if you hear some demand barking, that her lunch is like 20 minutes ago and she's unhappy with me, so apologize. I have been with Amazon for just over 2 years. I spent the last 2 years as the military spouse program manager, building programs to bring military spouses into the company, and then working on retention mechanisms to make sure that we retain that top talent, as well as building community engagement strategies to make sure that Amazon always had the voice, or the pulse on the voice of the military spouse community. I recently transitioned roles over to AWS on the business side of the house, but I'm going to put on that old hat for a minute. I've been a national advocate on military spouse employment for the last 8 years, trying to break the preconceived notions about what a military spouse is or isn't, and help employers understand the value that we bring to the workforce, and help employers tap this untapped talent pool that currently sits at an unemployment rate of 37% as compared to our non-military spouse peers who sit at an unemployment rate of about 4 to 6%. So I am here to help the employers on the line understand, what does it mean to hire military spouses? How can you build those programs? To Mike's questions earlier, what resources can you leverage right now for free to connect with military communities? What things can you do in a sort of a crawl, walk, run approach to build a military hiring program to take you from being military friendly to being fully military ready, whether that's hiring veterans or military spouses. So I look forward to the Q&A, offering advice and support. And I will also put my LinkedIn in the chat here too. So if folks want to carry on the conversation later, we can do that as well.
Beautiful. I love it. And actually, we're just going to punt right into those questions there, which you had already started talking about. And the question, if you didn't see in the chat, is asking about how do we bridge providing the info on the positions that are available, specifically in this case at the city of Murrieta, for some higher level and even entry level positions in local government. And then to ultimately put those in front of folks that are looking. So whether it's spouses, transitioning military, or existing veterans. So Beth, you were jumped right on that. So I'm going to give it right to you to kind of elaborate a little bit more, and then the panel jump in as you please.
Sure. Nick touched on this a little bit. So part of the challenge right now for veterans and military spouses is that there literally are too many choices. There are too many programs through DoD. There are too many programs through nonprofits. There are too many programs through through the National Chamber of Commerce and local Chamber of Commerces. There are too many nonprofits. So it is overwhelming as a job-seeking military spouse or veteran to understand where to go. So most veterans and military spouses kind of stick to what we know, and what we know is community. And so I would say to you, look at in your local community, who are your nonprofits in the military space? I will tell you, Blue Star Families, they have national and local chapters. They have a very strong San Diego chapter that is deeply connected in and around the greater sort of San Diego area that has deep roots in all things workforce development that can directly connect you to entry level or skilled workers. I would also look at if you're looking for military spouses, the Chamber of Commerce Hiring Our Heroes Foundation has military spouse professional network chapters all across the country. So those are the two, in terms of employment, those are the two nonprofits I would really seek out, and you can engage with them for free. You can also, if you want to level up your engagement, you can sponsor local events with them to help do more curated one-on-one events. But they have people on the ground in your local community that can help you sort of get past the noise. They can either help find you candidates, or they can help maybe put on a workshop for you or put on a lunch and learn for you. So it's a way for you to both connect with your local community, support your local community, and also meet candidates where you are and bring new opportunities to those candidates. So I would start with the Mil Spouse Professional Network through the Hiring Our Heroes Foundation and Blue Star Families. And I'm specifically going to focus on mil spouses here because that is literally who I am and what I do.
And Mike, I would add just one last thing. Beth is 100% spot on with everything. But if you're looking to bridge info on which positions are the ones that are best fit, hopefully you have a pretty robust internal employee network already for military. Your internal business resource group, affinity group, whatever you call it, is likely one of your best resources to get that word out. Because if candidates can't see other people that were in the military in those roles, they're not going to see themselves in that role. So using your employee network is a really strong voice that sometimes is way more powerful than any campaign or any marketing paid advertisement you're going to do out there to get the job posted.
And then I'll add on too. So, I mean, LinkedIn is a huge, very powerful platform. Every veteran and every service member and military spouse get it for free for a year. So there's an opportunity for you to reach them there. Also, you have the opportunity as well to look at all those LinkedIn groups. So I'm part of at least 50 of them, but you can look at different trades in there. You can look at different groups, maybe looking at post 9/11 veterans, women veterans, technology veterans. There's all types of groups in the LinkedIn groups that you can really find a lot of talent and socialize that. Also info sessions. I mean, doing info sessions, live info sessions, posting it on LinkedIn, letting people know about the opportunities. But I couldn't agree more with what Nick and Beth were saying. You have to find those advocates internally that you have already. And if you don't have veterans out there, you know, you have to be able to, one, educate the leaders that are going to be hiring this talent too. I think that's if you go out and find this talent and they start applying to these jobs, but they're not ready to take that step of looking past that resume and having a conversation, you're going to get a lot of rejections of people. and you're not going to be able to understand what that skill set is. So I can't emphasize enough how important a conversation is with the veteran. Had I not had that conversation, I had zero HR background. I had zero recruiting background. If anything, I was a drill sergeant at one point in my career. It's the complete opposite of military, of recruiting, getting people out of the military. I mean, so, that's something that I really focus on, is that you're making sure that, the people are ready to receive them. And you'd be pleasantly surprised if you work with Hiring Our Heroes of the type of talent. I think, Beth, you hit on it too. These career fairs, for you to show up, they'll welcome you with open arms, but have conversations with them, get deep, understand them, learn about them, and you'll be pleasantly surprised, like I said, of what they're capable of doing.
Also, Tommy and Beth and Nick, I mean, strong points. I would definitely recommend, touching back with the employee resource groups, all these members, they're your employees, they're veterans, sometimes they're still in their reserves. They're your way to be able to connect with the talent already. They can make introductions to those special units within the military bases. I mean, we're in Riverside County, we have Camp Pendleton, we have LA Air Force Base, we have March. There's a lot of military bases that hold mini career fairs, or IT fairs, or health, recruiting events for the health industry and medical industry. So there's opportunities for you to be able to connect with the talent directly on the military installations. If you have a veteran or a military spouse that work in your organizations, if they left in the past 3 years, I guarantee you they know somebody still in the military that can provide those connections. There's a lot of opportunity. Please feel free to connect on LinkedIn. I can make introductions to all the MCCS, the career retention, the TRS, all the folks in the military installations. I can just simply make an introduction. You can connect with them for those invitations where you can set up a booth. It can be a one-on-one where you can advertise your position. So there's a lot of opportunity to connect with talent.
Yeah, I would thank you all for that. I mean, this is coming at a really good time. Obviously, we're hurting like every other employer, and we have some real need, and really in some of the entry level kind of paraprofessional or journey level positions, which provide some pretty good benefits and some pension benefits, and there's lots of good things about that. And we need long-term employees, and so I'd really like to get on this. And Hilder's offered some assistance. And Tommy as well. And so, yeah, I intend to be following up. And Jay, I'll connect with you on LinkedIn. So thank you very much, everybody.
Beautiful. Great question. Great question. And I especially love the idea of plugging into your existing military hires to help kind of better understand. And then shameless plug too, because we do a lot of work with Hiring Our Heroes. Mike, even if it's there's a fair that's going on Pendleton or March Air Reserve Base, if you're not capable of being there, Lauren and her team especially are there representing you as well. So if you're sharing those positions that are open to at the city to that organization, then they're also advocating on your behalf as they are in front of this talent, because ultimately they're a connector, and there's even some great financial benefits to it as well. Okay. So on that note, and I think this is critical, and it's foundationally a big part of what I wanted to cover here with this panel is, what would you say the one thing that a business, an organization, a municipality could do today to start down the right path of creating a culture that is more military ready versus military friendly? And that's really talking more about better understanding the military culture to make sure that, folks that are coming in either with the spouse, veteran, or active through like maybe a corporate fellowship, what steps can an organization take today to make them feel more comfortable?
I will start with some simple things that are free. Update the language on your website. So by simply including military spouses in your language, you are including the entire military community. By changing things from like, we're a veteran-friendly company to saying that we're military-friendly. We engage with the military community. By specifically calling out military spouses and saying that you understand the value they bring to the workforce, that you have remote and flexible opportunities, that you that you understand the education and leadership responsibilities that military spouses bring to the workforce by like literally changing the language on your website to identify this subset of the population. That's one thing you can do for free. Identify roles in your organization. For the active duty military spouse in particular, mobility is key for us. I just finished my 13th move. So I will move again. I will probably move next summer. So being mobile is key for me. But now that I'm with a company that I can move with, I'm not going anywhere. And to just beat down a quick myth that military spouses are going to move too quickly. At Amazon, military spouses have longer tenure than non. So the fact that if you can provide flexibility, you will get rewarded with dedication and a long-term employee. So I would say for free, update your language on your website to be incredibly inclusive of the community. Second, identify roles that might fit that lifestyle and call it out. Put it out there and say, this role might be great for a military spouse. I would challenge you on that, though, to not pigeonhole your community. And don't say, we've got customer service roles for military spouses. Instead, if you've got flexible roles, identify those roles and say these roles are flexible for the military spouse community. That's one thing you can do for free to be more inclusive of the community.
Beth, can I ask for clarification on that? When you say flexible and mobility, I do think that myth occurs. You think, okay, if I'm going to hire somebody, then I'm going to have them working remote because they're going to move to another city or state. So could you speak a little bit more about what you mean by that? Because we haven't necessarily identified flexible positions. We're actually looking at a telework program to start doing that and getting those kind of buckets of employees, if you will. So how would you do that?
So there's a couple of things to understand. One, data has shown in the military spouse community, 60% of military spouses actually want to go into work. They actually want to leave their house. And so don't let that be a barrier to you. And two, understand that the research has shown over and over again, top 5 challenges for military spouse unemployment, the reason we have 37% unemployment is because of service member daily job demands. And so what that means is if you are able to provide the flexibility for that military spouse employee to run home to take care of an errand, to take care of a sick child, to take care of a sick dog, to have that kind of flexibility to not be chained to a desk from 8 to 5. If you have that kind of flexibility, that's critical. An added bonus is if that job could be done virtually, if they literally could do it from a desk in a different part of the state, in a different part of town, that again adds a layer of that is going to be more appealing to that military spouse community. So I use the word flexibility in the most literal sense of the word, because everyone is at a different phase in their military life. And that could mean, I just need to know that I can go pick up my kid from school when they're sick because my service member isn't going to be able to do it. I need to know that when I PCS to North Carolina next summer that I can keep my job. I need to know that if my service member is working, the night shift, that I can take this work home with me and do it later. So flexibility, whatever that means to your organization, as long as you're like upfront about it and you're able to accommodate any amount of flexibility, I would be really upfront about that.
Thank you very much.
I think adding on to that too, right? So COVID was a great thing for a lot of people, right? Especially in the military spouse community. So chances are that you all have worked remotely and it was successful, right? So keep that in mind as you're starting to look at military spouse and all talent, right? I mean, that's the future of the workforce. If you have the ability to be flexible, obviously some jobs, we have 3 different models at Verizon. We have in-person, we have a hybrid approach, and then we have a home-based approach. Those are our 3 models that we use. A lot of companies are similar to that, but you're also missing out on hidden talent, right? So you're not only you're not geographically, restricted by this as well. So you can start to reach talent that are in areas that you might not have tapped into in the past. You have the ability to increase diversity. And then I know, Beth, I'm sure, I don't know if you said this, but 92% of the military spouses are women. And, that's a great opportunity. Just to add on to some of the other things I think you were saying, how do you become, ready, right? So one of the things that I did is I listed out all of the holidays of the military in Verizon. And we just started to socialize them and celebrate them internally, right? we make a big deal about everything, about Memorial Day, Military Spouse Appreciation Day, the month of the military child. You know, that creates an inclusive environment for everybody. And if everybody feels, you know, we do it for Black History Month, we do it for, you know, Hispanic Heritage Month, right? We need to continue that momentum. And you guys, there's a great opportunity coming up. You have Military Appreciation Month. You can start raising that flag now and start communicating that, and do it. Social media is king. You know, even individual posts about your company and social media and how important it is that to you to people will get that. Wherever your largest following is, that's where you need to be communicating that most, right? So that they understand that. But then when the time comes, when a service member or military spouse engages your employees need to be able to receive them with open arms and have a real authentic conversation about your company, where you are in the stages. And it's okay to say, hey, listen, we haven't hired any veterans. We haven't hired any military spouses, but we damn sure want to do it. Maybe you're going to be our first. Tell me about your background. Like, you got to, that's kind of how you have to approach it, but it's got to be energetic. You got to really show that you're really passionate about it. And that will catch fire, right? You know, it's infectious. Those things are really infectious.
Jay, go ahead. I saw you come off mute first.
I wanted to beat Nick. So, you know, one thing that I would ask, you know, each one of you ask yourselves is, what's my veteran, you know, population rate? You know, do I have 2%? Kind of tagging along with Tommy was saying, you know, is it 7%? You know, do a survey, right? Or get with HR, you know, find out where you're at, establish a baseline. Once you do that, then you have to, you know, coming back with, you know, what Beth was saying and Tommy and, you know, Nick, you know, create some type of employee resource group, right? Show them that, you know, they truly are welcome in the organization. Show them how much you care about them. And once employees start seeing that 5% of your workforce or 20%, then they'll be your biggest advocates. They're going to connect you with talent. It's going to help with retention. And then once they start belonging and get that feeling of belonging and leading, that's where the development, professional development opportunities are going to come that are going to help with the retention piece as well. So, you know, how do you take an employer from veteran friendly, which is just posting jobs, you know, with the flag saying we want to hire somebody, to take it to actually be veteran ready, is by, you know, creating these programs that are going to not just attract and recruit, but also retain and advance your population, right? You know, Beth speaks, you know, great. I mean, in IT tenure, it's typically 2.8, 2.9 months. I'm sorry, years. So 2 years, 8 months, or 9 months. 2 years. That's tenure in IT, in the industry. But when I looked at my previous organization, tenure amongst the veteran community was from 4 to 4.5 years, right? So the talent is there. They don't want to leave. They want a place where they're going to, you know, get paid well, get treated well, you know, be recognized for the work that they're doing, and be promoted as well, right? So that's one of the recommendations that I can make. It's find out what your veteran population is, start from scratch, show them that you really care, and everything else will follow. Go ahead, Nick.
Thanks. I would say I think all of you are on this call because you're looking to pivot from military friendly to military ready. So I think that's the first step. So kudos to you for exploring the opportunity. But every single person on this call, I don't care what your job or your company does, someone in the military does the work that you need them to do. So there is literally an MOS from every branch of the military and a spouse that can do any job that you have right now. So you just have to be able to get out there and get that word out to the military community in your areas. Using the resources Beth mentioned is the best way to get that out there. Using the employee resource group that Jay mentioned as well, and Tommy put in the chat, is the best way to do it. Use us. I don't know how many times I've gone to businesses that were looking to set something up and they couldn't get past their board or their boss or their CEO. And, you know, we have a pretty loud voice. We're happy to explain why they should be doing this. Also, if anyone on the call is an AWS customer, I'm happy to help you for free. That's part of our benefit of AWS customers. We have lots of other opportunities to make sure our AWS customers get the same exact experiences that we provide for our own employees. So happy to reach out to you. If there's any institutions of higher learning on the call, we partner with you all the time today to hire your graduates, to provide training to our employees. So there's other ways for us to connect military-ready individuals to military-ready employers as well.
Nick, I was going to ask, do you offer the same services to Prime members?
Yes, if you're a customer, you basically get Military Prime, which is services of Beth and I for free.
So many programs in that Prime program. It's amazing. I love Prime. Also, shout out to Morris Myers, who is with our higher education here. So Morris, there's an opportunity to connect there. So I'm going to jump to another question here. You know, there were some really great things that you guys covered, specifically, and Tommy and I were talking about this in the beginning of this concept of being authentic and not beating around the bush and just kind of attacking it. And you know, this is like, tell me more about you know, how your service can apply to what we're doing. But you know, Lauren Ramos from HOH said something once before that really kind of struck a chord with me. Is, you know, one of those things that you can do is actually ask if, you know, they served or if a family member had served. And that's a big part of that culture that I've noticed doesn't come up quite a bit. So with that, a big question here, and I think this is kind of tailored towards that, you know, ask if they had served. What is one thing you wish that all HR professionals knew that you think would break down that wall and build common ground immediately?
For military spouses, our resumes are incredibly hard to decipher. I will just briefly give you mine. Started at a Fortune 500 as an executive, was a personal trainer, went to small business as a marketing director, was a CrossFit coach, went back to a Fortune 500 as an executive, was overseas for 5 years, started my own business, went to a nonprofit, and then came to Amazon. Any recruiter looks at that resume, they're going to wonder what in the heck is wrong with me. And all of this is across 6 different industries too. So luckily at my new job at AWS, that's perfect because they needed somebody with a broad range of experience across a lot of industries. So it's fine now. But I would say having HR or recruiters being able to pull a thread through someone's background that looks like mine, that maybe took several either lateral steps or steps up and down across scopes of responsibilities, and understanding what's the common thread there. And I would say the common thread in my instance was being able to connect with customers, build relationships, and solve problems. But I will tell you, a big reason that I had all of those jumps is because I constantly ran into recruiters who would just turn away. They were like, what in the heck? This chick has the craziest background. I don't even understand. So having a more open mind and being able to not just look at titles and responsibilities, but really understand the full picture of someone's background. And then also say, hey, if this person is a military spouse, have some basic understanding of what does that mean? What, like, this person lived on 3 continents in the last 12 years. This person, you know, has all of these other experiences culturally and in the business world that probably bring a really unique perspective. So I think just taking away that traditional lens when looking at a resume, in particular when it comes to military spouses, will really help recruiters and HR people uncover the hidden gems and the real strength of the military spouse community.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for humanity and being human and getting past the resume. But I'm also a guy that uses the motto KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right? Like I use that motto. And when I came into Verizon, I had 0 civilian experience. So the first thing that I did is just kind of assess everything. And I noticed that recruiters traditionally open up requisitions, they close requisitions, and then they open up that same job in the same location about a month later or 2 months later. So what I started to do is go into their closed requisitions and find veterans and start looking through those resumes and go, and they're like, hey, Tommy, can you help me find a network engineer? And I'd go back and I'd look at that bad boy and I'd call him up and I'd start talking to him. And he's like, yes, I applied to that job, I've got rejected. And I'd start positioning this talent right back in front of them, but making them have a conversation with them. You could have easy wins right now if you went through some of your closed requisitions and your talent that applied to some of your past jobs, right? Because that could be killing your brand as well. You could be rejecting talent that never got a fair shake, never had a conversation. I mean, it is an everyday challenge. I've been with Verizon for 9 years. I would say that everybody in Verizon knows who I am and what I do for military internally. I still have challenges of hiring managers staring at a resume and making a decision. I have challenges with recruiters doing the same thing. I could give an hour-long PowerPoint on skipping first in, first out and veterans preference to recruiters, and they'll get right on their applications, on the applicant tracking system and skip right down and wait, not touch the veterans, right? So making it very purposeful. I think the loudest leader in your organization, we had the motto in the military. If the general walks in a room and says, hey, this room will look great blue, everybody's thinking, how do we get this color blue? How do we change this blue, blue, right? If somebody in a position of authority says, I want to make more hiring in veterans, it will happen. It happens in diversity. And if somebody says it, that is in a position of authority, that they will follow through and make it happen. So you have to communicate it over and over again. But I can't stress enough that put the human aspect back into recruiting and talent acquisition. We tend to go through and look at cookie cutter models of who that person was in the past that filled that job or who we're backfilling, and put that same person back in there. But a lot of people don't realize that that person gained a lot of skills over the course of the time they were in that role. And now they're looking for that person at the end of that, as opposed to the one that they originally posted for that position. So again, just the human aspect of it, if you really are a military friendly company and really care about the military community, you'll pick up the phone when people self-identify and just have them have a conversation. It doesn't need to be an hour full-blown screen, but you can generally get a good understanding of who that talent is right away.
I'd say one of the biggest myths is that your recruiters or your team might not think a military candidate wants to do this job. So if you worked in retail, my boss used to tell me this all the time: quit shopping out of your customers' pockets. Don't make the decision on behalf of someone else. Let them make their own decision. So if you do the things that Beth said, which is update your job descriptions to make them more military inclusive versus veteran inclusive and all these other things, then you're going to get people to apply. So don't think you're not going to find a veteran out there or a military spouse. You got to put it out there and just see what will happen.
I would also say, right, is to understand the veteran culture, terminology, lingo. If you're not blessed with having a military recruiter, somebody else that served, to be able to translate that resume, if you're looking at that resume and denying it for that rec, please have them do. And I shared it on the chat. It's a SHRM certificate, an education certificate. Veterans at Work certificate is completely free, that they can go ahead and do on their own to better understand where the military is coming from, to make sure that we're meeting them halfway. Here we are, we always say that we have this workforce gap, but at the same time, there's all this population, that is leaving the service, 200,000 plus. There's, I think, over 1 million, female veterans. There's all these military spouses that are, well educated. They're great program managers, project managers, but, we're denying them for certain roles. So yes, let's connect. Let's make sure that we're meeting them halfway. Let's not put the whole transition on them. Let's also put it on our end and educate ourselves as recruiters or as hiring managers to make sure that we can identify top talent.
I'm dropping a document. I just gave it to Mike, but it's a SHRM military document, right? It's 10 things to make yourself military ready. You may or may not have seen it. You see the military friendly survey out there. You see the best for vets survey out there. I don't really care about the ranking. What I like about it is that it gives me an opportunity to audit myself. Going through those questions and looking at it and saying, okay, is Verizon doing this? And what am I doing to work towards that goal, right? So if I'm not asking whether you're a military spouse on our application, then what am I doing to fix that? Or am I just going to be complacent and continue to let that happen and answer that same answer no every year? And if I'm okay with that, then that's fine. So I think using these type of documents that I'm adding in here, this one that I'm going to drop in, is extremely important. But also just sign up for those surveys for free and really look through them. And you're going to be really pleasantly surprised of what you're doing well. And you can use that and kind of tout that, right? So, hey, you know what? We're not so bad off as we thought we are. Or, you know what? We're really bad. We need to work on this thing. and it gives you a starting point to kind of help tick off those things and put things into action.
Well, it's a good one, Tommy. I mean, one of those questions you're going to see there is, how much of your recruiting budget is kind of focused on military recruiting, right? Of your talent acquisition team, your recruiters, how many of them are, actually targeting military communities, right? So, no, great document, Tom.
Yeah, I was a token veteran hire for Verizon in HR. I'm confident that they hired me because the father of a Vietnam veteran basically said, "Hey, do me a solid. I like this guy. Give him a shot." And I guess I don't know if they got lucky or I got lucky, but it worked out, right? But I think that that's something you got to consider for sure. Just looking at these documents and making sure that you're doing the right thing.
I guess he had another question.
Yeah, I just wanted to just have a quick share. As an HR manager, somebody who's been in HR for a long time, it's much like IT. A lot of times when we see somebody's military career, it's hard to actually interpret and understand because there's lots of acronyms and lots of things that civilians wouldn't understand. So again, much like when somebody gives me all of their IT background and tells me every system and platform they've ever worked on, I don't know what that is. And the IT manager may be able to help that out. So it's almost like maybe coming together a little bit to say, hey, what are more streamlined and general types of work that you did in your military employment that translates? Because it's hard for somebody like me to make that. And I certainly want to, and I'm going to make the efforts here to try and understand some of those things. But it's hard when we're just seeing paper applications. We can certainly ask better questions, absolutely. But I'm not really sure I can make that transition from what they did in the service to our code enforcement position. So that's probably where I probably need the most help as an employer.
So first, go ahead, Nick.
Sorry.
Go.
Sorry, Tommy.
I get fired about that. Go ahead.
Mike, I was going to say, that's where you're going to have to press your technology teams to make it better for your application process for all your candidates, because I'm sure there's plenty of other candidates that have lots of security clearances, background certifications, your application process that have some general screening questions that allow candidates to self-identify and basically knock themselves out of the running if they don't meet the requirements that you need. Simply having a basic qualifications and a preferred qualifications isn't going to cut it. You need to have technology help you out when it's sorting through your resumes. And then also, the more that you connect with the community and work with HOH and others, you will not be getting those resumes if you partner with the good organizations that are providing you candidates for free, because they're going to tell them how to update their resume to what employers are looking for and demilitarize all of that from their backgrounds.
Thank you very much.
But to that point, I think that's 100% accurate. You're still going to have a very small population of veterans that go through the TAP program and actually captive, really get the touch hiring our heroes. So they don't get it. I also think there's an opportunity though, just to really, again, pick up the phone, have a conversation, try it out, do like a certain group first and have those conversations. But then you have people of, whether you're going to hire for skill or will, right? If they have the ability to do a job, there's chances are, a great example is everybody here would agree that West Point is a premier institution, the Naval Academy, right? Air Force Academy, Coast Guard Academy, right? Well, the #1 graduates of West Point, they want to be infantry. They may have graduated with a degree in aeronautical engineering, but they want to test their intestinal fortitude and they want to do combat arms, they want to fly planes, and they want to do stuff like that, right? So I think you have to think through that lens as well. Now, are all enlisted personnel in that same boat? No, but we all took an aptitude test. Again, I'm from Toms River, New Jersey. I was a flunky in college. I didn't know anything about technology, but I was a communication technology guru in the Army. I took the ABSVAB and they trained me, and I had the skills to kind of to go there. So again, you're not going to understand that. And chances are they're not going to understand a lot of the things that are on your job description, to be honest with you, right? It is their responsibility to try to make it as civilianized as possible. But I only say that, I agree 100% with Nick. It's their responsibility. But at the same time, if you're an infantry person and you've been infantry for 10 years and you have a degree, there's only so much civilianization you could do there. You can translate it a little bit, right? in the technology space, it's a lot easier to communicate that it may be this type of technology versus this technology. I'm just really passionate about that, of really getting them to try to tell their story as fast as, if they can. So if you have the ability to have your recruiters to have those conversations, you'll be pleasantly surprised. Or do military info sessions, right? I said info sessions again, just do an open event where you just want to meet service members and say, hey, Beth, tell me about your experience as a military spouse. She's going to run through, Nick, what'd you do in the Navy? Boom. What are you doing now? Or just turn the guns back internally and again, look at the employee population. I guarantee you that the veterans that are in your company are not doing the same job that they did in the military in your company. There's a 99% chance that they're not doing that. So think and look through that lens.
Great example, Tom. I have one of my buddies who lives in Murrieta. He was an infantry guy, and now he does safety for BMC, one of the construction companies up in Temecula, Murrieta. So he's not doing the same job he did in the military.
I love it. Hildur, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead and chime in.
Yeah, I was just wondering, so what would you, so there's so many misconceptions and kind of, recruiters are afraid to especially go with military spouses because of the frequent gaps in resumes or the going back and forth, like Beth was mentioning. How can we get recruiters to start looking past that and understand that it's not because they're not dedicated or they're not they're not a good worker, they didn't leave that role in a year and a half because they wanted to, because also they're afraid to self-identify as military spouses because of those judgments. So how can we get recruiters to kind of let go of those traditional, like, hey, you're not a good candidate unless you've been in the same role for 5-10 years, and then I want to hire you. Yeah, I don't know if that's a clear enough question, but
No, that's a great question, and you hit on a lot of good things. So there's really sort of three parts to this. So part of that is on the military spouse. We need to learn how to tell our story better, like full stop. We have got to own that and learn how to tell our story better. You are right. A lot of military spouses do not like to self-identify because we are immediately afraid of what you just said. We are going to immediately be discounted because of preconceived notions about what people think we are. But military spouses have to learn how to tell their story better. The other part of that is there's two things that can happen. One is recruiters have got to learn how to innovate, how they look at the workforce, period. There is a workforce shortage right now. And if recruiters don't start to change how they engage with the workforce, they are going to lose, whether that's hiring military spouses or not. The last part of this is it comes from the inside. So whether you have military spouses in your organization that you can have a lunch and learn with and have them give some perception of like, what is a day in the life of the military spouse? Who are we? The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Blue Star Families has tons of data on how smart we are, how much leadership skills we have, how many languages we speak, how many of us come to the workforce with a security clearance, what our demographic diversity brings to the workforce, so that the military spouse population alone can solve a lot of your employer sort of demographic needs or your diversifying needs. So that's looking at military spouses through the different lens of answering your workforce needs, because we have such diverse skill backgrounds as well. We can kind of meet all of your, whether it's entry level or executive level needs. So there's a component of education. So if you have a military spouse internally, they can give a lunch and learn to your recruiters, do that and get leadership buy-in. Your leadership is going to understand the value that we bring to the workforce. And if you can have top-down directives about saying that, your leadership wants you to hire more military spouses, that'll help change the conversation. So again, it's on us to tell our story better, period. It's on recruiters to innovate how they engage with the workforce, or they're just going to lose hands down. And then it's internal from the military spouses in your company to share their story, and from the leadership in your company to put that directive out there to hire military spouses.
I'm not a military spouse, but I can tell you that, in most organizations, most people stay in the job for 3 years and then they move into professional development, they move on, right? And every employee has a responsibility to come in and wherever that was when you came in, to leave it at a better place when you move on to the next position. So if you think about it through that lens, you may be getting premier military spouse talent for a short period of time if you don't have the flexibility, but that could be taking your organization to the next level. So whether they're in there for a year and bringing all in and outperforming all of the past employees that have held that job, right? You may be missing out on really good talent because you have the mindset that they have of, oh, well, you're going to invest in talent regardless. And you can't foresee the future unless you're Miss Cleo, and you know that. But I'll tell you right now, they may leave, but why not take a chance on someone that has the skills that can bring it in and take you to the next level? And if that's another military spouse that follows suit behind her or him to take it again to the next level, then you're moving your organization together, moving it forward.
And at the same time, Tommy, you're creating allies in the community. You take care of them. They come in, they do the job for 2-3 years, 4 years, or maybe a year and a half because something happened. They grew the business, but now you have an ally in your community. And guess what? They might come back to outperform, whoever was leading the spot that they left behind. So.
Well said. And similarly too, with a lot of the folks that are currently living specifically here in Southwest Riverside County, with all of the installations that are near us, a lot of them are transitioning out and actually staying here too. So there's really a win-win situation there, and it really boils down to asking the question and being authentic. One of the things that you guys were touching on, and I actually saw something on LinkedIn about this, and I love this. And I think you can kind of take this two directions. Is as a leader in your organization, as the CEO, as the business owner, fill out an application to apply to your own business just to see where those bottlenecks are. It gives you a good perspective of what the employee force is looking at. And then with the information that you are armed with today, start looking at that process too, as if you were a military spouse, a transitioning military, or a veteran in the community. There's really no better way to figure out where those bottlenecks are than by doing it yourself. So with that, we're at the end of the hour here. I wanted to be respectful of everybody's time. I cannot thank this panel enough. You guys have truly been everything that Lauren said that you would be. So I really appreciate your investment of your time in our military community here. And I want to give this opportunity to just kind of go down the line. We'll start with Beth there just for final comments and anything that you'd like everyone to leave with today.
Hire more military spouses.
+1, and just go out there and do it. Like use us as your advocates to help you get something off the ground, but don't be afraid to try. Talk to the resources that we put in the chat that we mentioned today. All of these organizations are free, want to help you, and we want you to get more military hires. I think Tommy and I were chatting in the green room. Tommy works for Verizon. I work for Amazon. We both have the same types of network engineers, but at the end of the day, Tommy and I could care less if a veteran works for Tommy or a veteran works for me. We want more veterans in the workforce. So we all operate on the no logo, no ego mantra. We just want more vets and spouses to get jobs. And we want to get them in the right companies that want to hire them.
Yeah, I agree with both. I mean, thank you all for your interest in it. I think talking about it is one thing, but actually being about it is another thing. So, attending webinars, my challenge to you is actually execute on it now. Take the information that you have, reach out to us, and let us help you find that. And we'll help you find talent and kind of help you navigate through this this transition of finding military spouse talent.
I think everybody, right? +1, +2, +3, but I would definitely say, make it happen. Hire veteran talent, hire military spouses, because by doing so, you're going to be able to gain diversity in your organization. And with diversity comes innovation. I mean, that's plain and simple. And your business will grow. So yes, please, military spouses, military talent, just do it. Make it happen. We're here to help you out.
I just want to say one more thing too. I forgot. I mean, you got Jay Garcia in your backyard, right? So if you haven't, he's one of the biggest allies and advocates on the face of the planet. So if if you haven't worked with Jay in the past, I would schedule an office call with him, because I guarantee you he will be able to help you in any area that you may need. He's just amazing. We've worked together for many years. So again, please, good luck. And I think reach out to Jay, but I'm here too. I know we all are.
And can I just clarify? So you were all nice enough to put your LinkedIn information. So I'm following you now. Is it okay to reach out to you through LinkedIn for those contacts? Thank you all.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Mike, for your engagement. It says a lot about the city of Marietta. So with that, I cannot thank you enough. As I said, as for all of our attendees, let's give a round of applause for our presenters. I can tell you they're extremely accessible. Nick in his littleness, I love that. I can tell you these folks are incredibly accessible. I know I sure took a lot away from this, and this is coming from someone who's constantly in the working in the military community here locally. But I think the big things that I want to leave you with is, and this is something that can be applied not only to the military and their families, but also as you start to explore diversity and equity and inclusion in all facets of your business or your organization, is to be intentional, but most importantly, be authentic. So once again, I thank you also very much. I'm going to leave the room open for a little bit. So if you have not already, feel free to save the chat. There was a lot of links there. But alas, I'm also going to save the chat and kind of compile those links into a follow-up email that I'll send out to everybody. So you guys have a workbook. There is that old hungry dog there. We have reached our hour. Beth, you're amazing. Thank you so much. And I will see you all next time.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, all.